Right. So we are taking Sutra-20 this time. The sutra is Shraddha, Virya, Smruti, Samadhi, Pragna, Purvak Iteresha. For all others, faith, energy, mindfulness, integration, and wisdom form the path to realization. Or we can say for others, Nirodh is preceded by faith, strength, memory, absorption, and insight. We'll take Tawaria Sahib's translation. In the case of others, when such spontaneous realization of the unconditioned does not happen, such realization is preceded by and proceeds from faith or one-pointed devotion, great energy and use of willpower, constant remembrance of teachings, and one's own experience, the practice of samadhi, the state of inner harmony, and a knowledge or discernment of such harmony, all of which lead one gradually to that state of yoga. Have you put this? Yeah, you put it. Also put this meanings up, right? So in sutras 17, 18, and 19, Patanjali talked about samadhi with knowledge, which he called sampragnat samadhi. And in 17, he talked about vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita, rupa, anugarmat. So we took those individually as a samadhi and in sequence also as a samadhi. In 18, he talked about bhav pratyaya and viram pratyaya. That is the one impression goes and another impression begins, and to wait in the gap in between, right? And in 19, he talked about the prakriti layers and the videhas, the last sutra which we did. So now he's saying something over here called iteresham. Iteresham means for all others. So those who have reached to sampragnat samadhi, but have not gone through the 17th sutra, that is through vitarka vichar, have not gone through the 18th sutra, viram pratyaya bhava pratyaya, and have not gone through the 19th sutra, which is videha and prakriti laya. He's saying for all others, that state of sampragnat samadhi is preceded by these five, right? So which are the five he's talking about? Shraddha, Virya, Smruti, Samadhi, Pragna. So those others reach through these five. Now, we can take these five individually or we can take these five in sequence, in whichever way, right? And I'm going to start with just a little in individually, because Swami Brahmavedanji has taken them individually. So we'll just start from there. So there are others who may not have walked the paths mentioned in 17, 18, and 19. That is, who do not come in the categories of those three sutras, right? Then they have reached through these five, either in sequence or individually. We will take it in both the ways. And they can achieve this sampragnat samadhi, that is the samadhi with knowledge, through these five ways. The first is Shraddha. Now, I'm just going to take a very ordinary meaning first, and then we'll go deeper into the things. Shraddha definitely does not mean blind faith, even though we loosely translate it as faith. But let us take blind faith. just an example of blind faith. Supposing I have a totally blind faith in someone, what effect does it have upon me? Right? Now, supposing I'm worried about something in my business, right? Some deal which is going on in my business. And I have a blind faith in someone, and I say, okay, he'll take care of it, nothing to worry about. I'm taking a very ordinary lower level meaning over here. We'll start from there. And will it have an effect on my worrying? It definitely will have an effect on my worrying, because I have faith in someone. I will not worry. I'll say he's taking care of whatever my business problems are, or whatever problems I have. Now, one of the biggest leakages of energy for any student walking on the path is worrying. Right? So every time we worry, we are losing energy. Right? So here he's just by blind faith, I'm blocking a leakage of energy over here. Will it, just having a blind faith, will it, what do you call, calm the chattering of the mind to a certain extent? Will the chatter of the inner monkey calm down to a certain extent? Right? And that will also calm down. Right? Now, so when you talk about the first one, Shraddha, just even at the lowest level of Shraddha, which we call as totally blind faith, right? Which definitely is not going to lead to samadhi, but it does have an effect on that person, right? It saves energy, reduces chatter, and reducing chatter again is stopping the leakage of energy. And you progress to the second one, which is virya, the accumulation of energy, the accumulation of energy. And if there is virya, there is smruti, which is, intent, a mindfulness, right? And we can say that there is samadhi. Samadhi in the sense, we won't talk about samadhi, but a person who lives in total blind faith will have a kind of clarity about life. There won't be too much of thinking, too much of using of the logical mind. There will be a kind of clarity. So when we talk about Shraddha, and we talk of the lowest level of Shraddha, even in blind faith has an effect upon the person. And if we can take this a little further, do I invite the life which comes to me? Do I invite the events of life which come to meet me? If the invitational factor lies within me, then a person whose mind is calm, a person who has a saved inner energy, has a certain aura of that energy, a certain attractive factor of that energy, is so just by blind faith, I will change my future also, because the events of life which I will also attract will be of a different quality. So in the lowest level of Shraddha, there is so much of power. So much of power. Now, when we talk about voluntary Shraddha or conscious Shraddha, moving into the higher states of Shraddha, we can just imagine what kind of power would lie in such a state. Right? So the first word is Shraddha, and Patanjali is saying that you can achieve that state of what do you call Sampragnat Samadhi through faith, through belief in something. Right? So Swami Brahmvedant here has given some examples, and he has said that here we can take the examples of the bhakti yogis, and in today's age, Ramakrishna Paramhans, but in the old days, we can talk about Mirabai, right? So they reach the same state of Sampragnat Samadhi through Shraddha, through faith, right? Uh, the next one is Virya. Virya, at present, we will take as concentration of energy. And we will see that there are, especially in the Zen tradition, there are many martial art players or artists who practice this concentration of energy, virya, concentration of energy. And in Zen, we read stories of where by this concentration of energy, they achieve states of satori and glimpses of that higher state of samadhi. So Shraddha, Virya, Smruti. Smruti. Now here, I will just take one of Mr. Tawaria's statements where he says that you are already structured in transcendence, in the sense that what we are searching for, we already are, right? So he says we are already structured in trans. You have to just remember. So the Shraddha, Virya, Smruti, can we remember that we are already enlightened, we are already in the state of samadhi? And one of the techniques to remember is that where a person asks himself that, who am I? And the best example in today's age, we can say, is that of Raman Maharishi, where he went through this, we won't call it a question, we will call it an inner adventure and an inner quest, where you ask, who am I? Who am I? And you move through different levels of the mind, from the superficial level of moods and likes and dislikes to deeper levels of associations, contradictions, right? And then you move to your habits, and beyond your habits, you move to your attitudes, and beyond your attitudes, everybody has a chief weakness. And just behind that chief weakness is the soul. So by questioning, who am I? Am I this mood which I am? No, I'm not the mood. Am I this thought which I am? Am I this association? Am I this contradiction? Am I this habit? Am I this attitude? Am I this chief weakness? And when I'm not anything, what is left is just the pure soul. So we can say Raman Maharishi went through this practice. So through Smruti, remembrance, who am I? We can also give the example of Gurdjieff over here, who brought in the technique of self-remembering, right? Samadhi, clarity, samadhan hona, right? A state of non-questioning mind, a state of not allowing the mind to fall into the lower mind of logical reasoning and questioning. And there are people who love to stay in these states, and we have number of avduts and people who go into the forest and stay in this state, and they reach through samadhi. And then, of course, there is the state of prajna, which is the veil over reality has, we are going to go deeper into this state. The veil over reality has lifted. What comes in through the senses moves through the conditioning of the ego. We don't allow it to move through the conditioning of the ego, and we try to see reality as it is. What do you call this darshan of reality as it is, without the veil of the ego in between, without the veil of our conditioning, without the projections which we put upon it, that we can call as the state of prajna. And again, in today's age, we have a beautiful example of Krishnamurti, who always talked about just looking, just seeing, right? Seeing rightly. So these are some examples which I've just taken that have moved through this, each individually through one of these, and they have reached that state of sampragnat samadhi, that is samadhi with knowledge, right? Either through Shraddha, through Virya, through Smruti, through Samadhi, through prajna, right? Now let us start with the first one again. And my personal, what do you call, thinking would be that they are individual and sequential at the same time. That each one grows within us individually also, and each one has a kind of relationship to the other one. It's in a sense that just now I am a poor man. Nobody, what do you call, knows me. But one day I win a lottery, so I have a lot of money. And with money, automatically more people will know me. So fame comes with money, right? And with I suppose happiness will also come, right? So fame and happiness, they come out of that money. So if you get one, then you may get the other. So similarly, we can say if you move through one, the others are also connected in a way, and right? So we can take it in that way also. Now, Shraddha, and it is a feminine word. Each person is feminine and male at the same time, masculine and feminine at the same time. Because our bodies are, what do you call, our bodies are either male or female, we get identified with the body and we say, I am male or I am female. But psychologically, all of us are 50% male and 50% female. So in life, there is the play of male energy and female energy. And supposing somebody is aggressively talking with me, then he is in male energy. Then if I become male energy, then both of us are going to clash. I have to become female energy and receive and be receptive to what he's saying, right? Then both can meet. And on a psychological level, whenever we are in a relationship with anyone, we may be just talking on the road or talking on the phone, there is always this play of male energy and female energy. And if we can consciously at any moment in our life become male or become female, then there is never any conflict in our lives with anyone. It is not possible, because if the other person is male, we become female. And if the other person is female, we become male. So Shraddha is a female word. It denotes female energy, the correct characteristic of receptivity, the characteristic of softness, the absence of aggressiveness, an inner attitude of acceptance of life. So Shraddha, when we talk about the ego, it is very difficult for the ego and Shraddha to mix, because the ego means aggressiveness and Shraddha means receptivity, softness. So when we are in that state of Shraddha, in that state of what do you call, faith, right? It means that there is a certain softness in our attitude, in our actions, in our speaking, which will come automatically, right? Now, what is the difference between, because in blind faith, there can be aggressiveness. I may say, I follow this person and nobody else. I don't listen to anyone else. So in blind faith, there can be aggressiveness. But in real faith, in voluntary faith and conscious faith, there is a total absence of aggressiveness. If we are open to everything in life, each moment in life, we are willing to accept what it brings and to understand it and allow it to penetrate our being. Now, let us just what kind of emotions do we have? The lowest rung of the ladder on the ladder of emotions would be, of course, negative emotions. I'm not going to go into because we've talked about it many times. And but then above that is mechanical emotions. And all our emotions are mechanical emotions. We don't bring about that state voluntarily. Excuse me. That state happens to us. So supposing I say I've fallen in love with this person, I've fallen in love with this person. I have not voluntarily invoked love and allowed that love to take me over. I've fallen mechanically in love with someone. If I say I have faith in this person, then I have mechanically had this faith in that person. So we have to realize that all our emotions are mechanical emotions. We have not created them voluntarily. They have happened to us. They have come to us. So there is a long practice between mechanical emotions and voluntary emotions, right? And we have to practice this. And of course, if you go to an acting school, they teach how to voluntarize emotions, but that doesn't worry. That just helps us in the sense that we have to do it in the real situations of life, right? So, I mean, in an acting school, suddenly he'll say you become a villain and you have to project the emotion of a villain. And it says suddenly you become a lover, you project the emotion of a lover, right? And suddenly you're heartbroken, so you have to project the emotion of a heartbroken, right? Similarly, in life, we have to learn to voluntarize our emotions. And over time, as we practice this, right, I'm standing in a long, long line, and sometimes that line could be after a 20-hour flight or something. And the emotional center is putting a big label of dislike over there. I don't like this situation, right? And out of that dislike, complaining may start, finding fault may start, things will start, I'll start moving on a, what do you call, pathway of different thoughts, right, out of just that one. Now, can I voluntarize that I want to practice how to be patient, and I'm thankful for this situation, and I'm thankful that it allows me to practice being patient. Maybe I'll have to stand in the line for 4 hours. So from that initial emotional center, the label where it has put dislike, I move into a situation where I voluntarily create an emotion of thankfulness. And I have found that when we practice with one emotion, this becomes much easier. And in what I have seen is that thankfulness is the best emotion to practice with. Supposing my body is aching and I have to climb the stairs. So I may be, feeling negative. I may be cursing a little. These stairs are too hard or too high or whatever the thing is. But I may bring about an emotion of thankfulness that because of these stairs, I have to make an extra effort to rise above this. And please understand, all spirituality requires extra effort, more than normal effort. So I'm thanking the stairs that they are giving me, what do you call, making me do an extra effort. As we practice this time, over a period of time, we learn to voluntarize our emotions. Then we cannot fall in love, but we can voluntarize an inner state of love. Whoever comes in front of that state, the light of love can fall on that person, right? So it's a different thing. So this state of Shraddha, which leads to Samadhi, which the Rishi Patanjali is talking about, it has to be voluntarized. We have to first practice uh, from our mechanical emotions to voluntary emotions. And then one day from voluntary emotions, we can progress to higher emotions, compassion, right? These are higher emotions, the higher emotion of real love. We can progress to that. But as long as everything is mechanical in our life, this cannot happen. So please do practice this. Somebody insults us, somebody criticizes us, right? And we are feeling deeply negative. Voluntarize and thank that person. Bring a thankfulness that only the ego is hurt, only the ego feels pain. And because he has criticized me, it's given me a chance to observe the workings of my ego. Right? So each moment we can do this. So over a period of time, this state of faith, which Patanjali is talking about, can be voluntarized, right? And it can start with deep faith in a master or a teacher. And it comes to a state where every moment in life is the teacher. So there is deep faith for every moment. Then the teacher does not remain a person, right? Then each moment in life, there is a deep thankfulness because that moment in life is the teacher. Now, no journey on the spiritual path can start without Shraddha. It is not possible. Unless I have a belief, which in the beginning will be a kind of blind belief, that there is a level higher than me. Uh, I may call it a divinity, or I may call it consciousness, or I may call it God, whatever I want to call it, self-consciousness, that there is a level which is higher than me, more internal to what my consciousness is, and that level is attainable. That level is reachable through a certain practice or a certain attitude or through a certain teaching or with the help of a certain person, whatever. Uh, that level is attainable. So here I must have initial, before I begin the journey, if I don't have the faith that there is a level higher than me, then there's nothing like the spiritual journey. Right? The very spiritual journey starts that I am at a certain level and I can transform myself to a different level on the ladder of being, move up on the ladder of being. So all spiritual journeys will start from this, from faith, from Shraddha. Without that, it is not possible. It is something which I can work for, make an effort to reach. Right? Now, once I know that there is a level higher than me, then I'm going to stop wasting my energy on so many things and try to direct my energy more towards understanding, more towards making a movement towards that higher level which I think is attainable. So from Shraddha, I'll move to Virya. Huh? The controlling of energy, the gathering of energy, the concentration of energy. Right? Now, let us go into the word Shraddha. Shrat means truth, and Dha means to direct one's mind towards truth. Right? So here when we use the word Shraddha, it looks like a living word where there is something called truth, there is something called a higher level, and we have to make an effort, direct our minds, make an effort to reach that level. This is the meaning of the word Shraddha. Now here, it is not something which is static. It is something which is in an ongoing nature, something which is continually moving into something higher, right? Uh, Not only that, because dha is used, there is a point of verbal activity over here. Not only is there an inner movement of the word, but it is telling us that there is something, some verbal activity. It is suggesting to us that there is some verbal activity over here. And this is the difference between blind faith and real faith. That is, in blind faith, in real faith, we first use our thinking to doubt as much as possible. In blind faith, we don't use verbal activity. It is not suggestive of verbal. We straight away have blind faith in something or a person or a statue in some temple or whatever, right? But in this, we doubt it first. So if Mr. Tavaria tells me that you practice 3-step rhythmic breathing and it will lead to the state of yoga, then before accepting it, I must go through this verbal activity to reach a state of conscious Shraddha, to reach a state of voluntary Shraddha. I must first move through doubt as much as possible. I doubt it from all angles, right? And then I listen to what he says. He says that do it for 6 months and let me know, right? And I start practicing it for 6 months. And slowly my doubts through the practice must go away, not because he has said it. If the doubts go away because he has said it, it again will go back to blind faith. So in the very word of Shraddha, there is a suggestion of mental activity, and before we can reach the state of voluntary Shraddha, of conscious faith, we must move through this whole mental activity of doubting as much as possible. Once we have reached that state, then doubting will drop. We know now we have reached a state where we are beyond doubting. Now there is no need to doubt any longer. But if we don't think, then it will be an ignorant kind of Shraddha, an ignorant kind of faith. But if we have moved through this process and we come to this state of faith, then it will be alive, it will grow with each of our, as we progress on the path, it will grow with us. We can take another example. Supposing the teacher says, don't express negative emotion. And the teacher has said that we are always in identification. We are hypnotized with the events of life. And as we practice non-expression of negative emotion, we start realizing that when we are in negative emotion, when we are in a reaction, we are totally hypnotized in the sleep of life. So then what he has said now becomes a reality, becomes an understanding, and this brings real life faith. So there is the teaching of yoga, and as we practice that teaching of yoga, this faith grows within us. It is something which grows all the time. Now, because through faith, we are learning to perceive a world which was till now invisible to our senses. We are moving into our psychic nature. We are observing our psychic nature. Till now, it was my thought. Now I'm observing my thought, so I and thought are separate. Suddenly there is we have moved into a different inner realm over here through this inner faith. And we are moving into a world which till now was invisible. Till now I could see furniture, but now I'm looking at my thoughts. So I am now in a world which was till now invisible to me. And it is through faith that this starts to open up. And through this, it's a feedback process that faith grows. Not only that, it opens up life on scale. One of the exercises which Mr. Tavaria used to give us was to think in scale. So we had to think about people, think about things in scale. So I'll say that this person, he's not treating me properly, right? He's insulting me all the time. He's criticizing me all the time, right? And then we were taught to think in scale, that try to take that person as a whole. So we take that person as a whole, and I'll say he's a very good father. He looks after his family very well. He's very good at his profession, right? These are all the good qualities about him. And in these good qualities, where do I place his insulting of me, his uh, treating me very badly? So in this big scale of that person, that part where he has insulted me, treated me very badly, it doesn't really have a big place in that scale. So our thinking has moved from a very narrow thinking to thinking in scale. Now there will be scale, which is what we have talked about, is more of a horizontal scale, but there will also be a vertical scale, and it is through faith that we realize that these higher levels within us. So I will say that you came late and I was going to get this business contract, but because you came late, I lost this contract. And things like this happen in our life all the time, right? Now, I have taken meaning of life from a certain scale of life, from a certain this thing in life. Now, as my consciousness increases and I rise up the ladder of life a little, rise up the ladder of consciousness a little, I'll say till now it was his fault that I lost that contract. But I realized that within me there is a memory pattern. Within me there is a sanskar which is going to make me fail in such exams or such contracts many times. And unless I work upon it, it's going to happen again and again. So I'll say it was not his fault. So at a certain level, the meaning of life it was his fault. But as consciousness rises, the meaning changes. The meaning changes. It is definitely not his fault. I invited this to myself. Can you understand? So, because faith allows us to see higher levels of meaning, higher levels of consciousness. Now we work towards those levels. And that is why this Shraddha is an active, ongoing thing. One of the very good examples we can take is between what do you call Krishna and Yudhishthir. Krishna told Yudhishthir that you will have to say that Ashwatthama has died. There's no other way to kill Dronacharya. Now, at a lower level, it looks like I am saying an untruth. At a certain level, especially at the level of morality, right? But morality, I am saying an untruth, or Yudhishthira is going to say an untruth that Ashwatthama has died. Now, many people, you see, they're different. The ego has different, what do you call, shades of the ego. And the ego expresses itself in so many ways. And one of the ways the ego expresses itself is, I speak only the truth. Now, at this level of life, definitely that person must be speaking the truth, no doubt about it. But because it is coming from the ego, it is an untruth, because the ego is the untruth. But we cannot see that at this level of life. We can only see that a little higher level of consciousness, right? So if by speaking an untruth, I can dissolve the ego, it has more truth than truth. Definitely, I don't want to speak an untruth which will hurt someone else. So Krishna is telling Yudhishthir, you'll have to speak a lie because you have this ego that you always, what do you call, speak the truth. And that ego has to go because the ego itself is untruth, asat, right? And can you see here? So at a certain level of life, meaning means something. But as we rise in consciousness, everything changes, meanings change, and we get deeper meanings out of the same events in life, the same situations in life. So, Shraddha, it allows us to see life in a certain scale, life in a certain way, it allows us to see. Similarly, say at a lower level, there will be meaning through the senses, but at a higher level, there will be meaning through the mind. Supposing, again, we take the Mahabharata and we say Dhritarashtra is blind. So at a certain lower level, he is blind in his senses. He's really blind. But at a higher level, we are not talking about the blindness of the eyes. We are talking about a different level of blindness, the blindness of attachment, right? Can you see? So as we see life through different levels, it is this initial coming to the, what do you call, coming to yoga, coming to the teachings through faith that allows us to see life in different levels of both horizontally and even vertically. And at a certain higher state, faith, that is that Shraddha, when it has become so alive, it sustains that person. Just as a mother gives milk to the newly born child, it is that faith which we have that sustains us, which allows us to get through the obstacles of our sadhana, get through all the obstacles which come in our life. It and being female, it sustains us like a mother. Many times people they ask me which is the best emotion to live, and I say the best emotion to live is the emotion of discipleship, to be a disciple, because in that state of Shraddha, you feel that the teacher is, nourishing you like your mother every moment. And you feel whatever the obstacles come in your meditation, in your this, makes no difference. You'll go through them. You'll go through them. And it is this Shraddha which takes you ahead on the path, right? And I mean, 6 years with Tauriya Sahib, it was like living in that, that shell of Shraddha, just living in that shell where he was nourishing me every moment there. And it is that which, just that Shraddha, that feeling, which takes us ahead on the path. Now, when we are holding this emotion of Shraddha, it has a certain vibrational quality. And you will see this many times in your lives. I've seen it so often, right? That you just do the right thing. Spontaneously, you just do the right thing. Just 3-4 days ago, one lady came with a huge parcel. It was very heavy. And what do you call? Uh, I didn't know that that lady was married. I thought she was not married. And there was another person with her, and I thought he was her helper, and he lifted that and climbed one floor and left the parcel on my first floor. And I was, you know, looking to give him 25 rupees. So, but I couldn't find my keys or something. And then we went down, and I was sitting with that lady, and she introduced him as her husband. Right now, you see, this is a very ordinary situation in life, but the very, what do you call, the very vibrational quality of Shraddha, of that emotion, it creates a kind of aura around you. It doesn't allow you to do the wrong thing. I don't know if I'm coming across in this, but that it has that kind of vibrational quality, this Shraddha. So, and it is a beautiful place to be in. I mean, on this earth, Shraddha is the most beautiful place to be. Thank you. So it gets rid of obstacles. It makes us make the right choices, and it sort of looks after us. Just that very inner emotion. So the first one which Patanjali starts with is Shraddha. And when you're in that state, there is always a happy and pleasant feeling about it. I mean, what can make you unhappy when you have when you are in that state? Nothing can make you unhappy. There's always a happy and pleasant feeling about it. So, Shraddha being an ongoing activity, it takes us from where somebody tells us what is the truth to our experience to what is the truth. And it is that inner movement which is called as Shraddha. Now, the next is Virya. Virya. A beautiful word, very beautiful word. Uh, it means the potential sentiment of heroism. So in Sanskrit, a hero is what is called as Veer. A hero is called as Veer. So Virya is with the quality of Veer, the sentiment of Veer is lying in seed form. Is lying in seed form. And the biggest Veer in life is the one who knows and understands himself, right? Who has gone through the battle of self, of moving through, won the battle of self, moving towards the self. He is the real Veer in life, the real hero in life. So Virya means that in which Veer exists in a potential form. Virasya bhavo yata. It is related to the Latin word vir, which means a man, right? And also to the English word we call virility, the qualities of a man. Right? But again, being in potential form, we are talking of effort over here. We are talking of what do you call making that movement from virya, which is at a certain level, to extracting the sentiment from that virya, which is at a higher level, the sentiment of heroism. Now, let us, in spiritual terms, what will it mean? Shraddha meaning I realize that there is a higher level. Virya meaning that now I direct my energies towards that higher level. So, what can it mean? What can it mean over here? Let us again take Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff says man cannot do. Again, please understand that the Latin word for Veer is man, the Latin, right? So Gurdjieff is saying man cannot do. What does he mean by this? What does he mean by this? Gurdjieff says there is the machine, there is the soul, right? Everything is automatic, everything happens. Very true. There is the soul and there is the spirit or the real I. Now, the soul has two qualities, right? One is attention and the other is will. And the third is, of course, presence. But we won't use Gurdjieff's word of the machine, but we'll just use our traditional words over here. So the attention of the soul, which is a quality of the soul, has been kidnapped by the ego. When Gurdjieff uses the word machine, I'm not using the word machine over here, right? The attention, which is the innate quality of the soul, has been kidnapped, or we can use it seduced by the ego. So supposing I go to a store and something attracts my attention, then it is the ego functioning. The ego has seduced, kidnapped the attention which belonged to the soul. And the soul being, the minute its attention gets kidnapped, it is in a state of identification. Right? It is in a state of identification. So the soul has this property of attention, which it cannot use because it has been totally kidnapped by the ego. So the soul cannot do, man cannot do. I hope I'm coming across. Whenever we try to control attention in any way, through any technique, it could be meditation or any technique, we are trying to control attention. We are trying to tell the soul that this belongs to you. That guy has what you call kidnapped it from you. You take your property back. You take your property back, right? I mean, so being the innate property of the soul, we are awakening the soul, telling it that you get out of this identification and you take your property back. You control your attention. Why are you allowing that guy to control your attention? Right? So when the soul starts controlling its own attention, not allowing the ego to control its attention, then for the first time, man gets the property to do. Otherwise, till then, man cannot do. Now, we'll just think about this. So, who is a Veer? Who is a hero? The one who has taken his property back to where it belongs, right? I remember Tawariya Sahib had this huge property in Thana, and somebody had taken over that property. And every few days, he would be going to the Thana court, sitting there for hours. So there is this, what do you call, somebody, it's not exactly kidnap, it's not the right word, but it takes it away, you know. So in this whole spiritual journey, there is only one currency, only one currency that is where you pay for your ticket with, right? And that is attention. That is attention. And that attention has been totally taken away by somebody. We don't have any of it. Who is this between the soul and ego? I'll try to answer. I don't understand what the question is. Right? Now, again, let us look at this capacity to do, the capacity to do, which we are calling as extracting of vir from virya. The soul can only do two things. It can control attention, and to a certain extent, it can hold presence. It cannot use that attention to fulfill desire. Then the ego comes in. So if I want to build a factory and I'm using attention to build that factory, then that is ego attention. It is not soul attention. Right? The soul can only use that attention to hold presence and observe the workings of the ego, which we call as self-observation. And that is why for every other activity in life which we do, which we feel we are so powerful and we are doing all the time, it is all ego attention. It is not soul attention. So the second word which he uses, virya, means the potency lying within us, the sentiment of heroism. It has to be attracted, and that is done by taking attention back to the source. The source of attention is our presence inside, right? And it gets its own attention back again. Now, in the Shastras, vir is also taken as a ras, that is, as an enjoyment of the divine, as something which you drink of the divine. And there are four techniques through which this heroism is expressed, the sentiment of heroism is expressed. The first is what they call as dharamvir, the one who, uses the attention to focus on the path, the inner path. The second is dayavir, the one who moves from thinking about self all the time, internal considering, into external considering, understanding the other. There is this movement of attention from my ego to understanding the other. Right? Then is danvir. All of us have a basic pattern of possessiveness inside. And we cannot, think of the other, move into the external considering, as long as this pattern of I want to possess everything lies within me. And dan is the way of getting out of this pattern. We give in charity to get out of this pattern. But there again, the ego makes all kinds of, it comes in through the back door. People, they come and they tell me, can you use this money in some good cause? Right? I say, you give money to be free of possessiveness of money. If I use it in a good cause, then it will bring more possessiveness. Of course, I have to use it in a good cause. I can't use it in any, But what I'm trying to tell them over here is this: if you say this, you're not going to be free of that pattern. You try to visualize your money is going in a gambling den or something, and then give the money. right? Then we'll be able to be free of this pattern of possessiveness, holding on to. So that is called Dayavir. And Yudhvir, the one who is willing to fight with his negative emotions. So the sentiment of heroism to be extracted from Virya. So he says, Virya is the process out of which you bring a hero, the sentiment of heroism. So the second one, Patanjali says, is you move through Virya. The third is Smruti. It comes from the Sanskrit root smru, to recall, the process of recalling. Many people, they have a big memory. Of course, the normal meaning of the word smruti would be memory, but they are not able to recall from the memory. Their power of recall is very weak, right? So here we are talking about the power of recall from something which we already have. I'll give you one example. Ram Dulare Bapu, and he was my guru for 7 years, right? And today, whatever I am is just because of him. I mean, he trained us in every dimension of life. I mean, like you hammer a piece of iron, this thing, he just hammered us and chiseled us till we could face every situation in life. And he used to say that सब कुछ नियोजित है फिर भी उसका आयोजन करना पड़ता है. Right? Everything is there in the memory, but we don't know how to bring it out. We don't know how to. And please understand, this is because things are not arranged properly in the mind. It is a wrong arrangement in the mind, right? So we must practice on increasing our power of recall. We must practice on increasing our power of recall. And one of the very good ways of practicing on how to increase our power of recall is that when you wake up in the morning, first go back and say, I won't get out of bed till I at least remember one dream. At least remember one dream. And this will sharpen the knife every day, as if we are sharpening our power of recall every day when we wake up in the morning. Now, to do anything on the spiritual path, we must have to recall. If I don't remember to observe myself throughout the day, if I don't recall, I have to observe myself, I'm just going to live in identification, right? So there must be the memory to do what I want to do. I have to remember what I want to do. I want to do self-remembering, but I have to remember to do self-remembering, right? So this power of recall is, without that, there is no walking on the spiritual path at all. This smru. I mean, we read about and I'll decide from tomorrow I'm going to observe myself, I'm going to observe my mind. And by the end of the day, I forgot. I didn't remember to observe myself once, right? So everything starts with this smru, to recall. Now, the minute we recall, it brings a certain mindfulness to the situation. Of course, mindfulness meditations have become very, popular these days. So it brings a certain mindfulness to the situation. So the word smruti means to bring mindfulness to a certain situation, to bring mindfulness, start observing yourself, start remembering yourself, bring meditation into the practice, bring the practice of mindfulness. Now, for a spiritual student, There are three kinds of memory, Smruti: life memory, memory of the work, and work memory. Now, what we have at present is life memory, and that is a very corrupted memory. It is a memory full of self-love. Right? Try to understand this. We keep on corrupting our memory. Right? So, supposing I went for a movie yesterday, and uh, next day someone is asking me, "You went for the movie, how was the show?" or whatever it is. Will I recount to him matter of fact, or do I add I to every situation? Can you understand what I'm saying? I'll say, "Oh, there was a big line for tickets, but I met somebody I knew and he took me ahead in the line and gave me a ticket." Right? So I'm recounting what happened yesterday and I'm adding I to it. I'm adding my self-love to it. So over that layer of memory, I'm now recording something in a different form from the original. One of the very famous examples is that of Socrates. Socrates was dying and all his disciples were crying. And his wife Xantippe was crying. So Socrates is asking his wife Xantippe, "Why are you crying?" And Xantippe, throughout their married life, she could never stand Socrates. She threw this boiling water upon him. He got all pockmarks on his face. Right? And to escape from his wife, Socrates would go onto the terrace and look at the sky and try to dissolve in the sky. Maybe he reached through that samadhi, right? So he's asking his wife, "Why are you crying?" And he says that, "Our whole life you could not stand me for 1 second. But after I die, you're going to tell other people life without Socrates is meaningless, right? How can I live without Socrates? And how much in sorrow I am because of Socrates, right?" And you'll all the original memory of the bad times you had with me, you will relayer it with a corrupted memory. And this is what we do all the time. So for a spiritual student, uh, the life memory is a useless memory. You cannot rely. Only the courts rely on it. It says, "I saw this person putting a knife into this person." Of course, the courts rely on it, but as spiritual students, we can't rely upon it. So then comes the work, the sayings of the work, the teachings of the work. And before we can implement the teachings of the work in our lives, we have to memorize them, like we memorize them in school. Now, we have an outer mind, we have a middle mind, and we have an inner mind. Uh, in Gurdjieff, we call the outer mind as the jack, we call the inner mind as the queen, and we call the uh, deeper inner mind as the king. The middle mind as the queen, and the inner mind as the king. When we learn something, all memory lies in the outer mind. It does not lie in the inner mind. So if you are asking something and I'm talking out of my memory or the words which I have sort of accumulated, then I'm talking from my outer mind, the lower mind I'm talking, the jack I'm talking from there. But if I have implemented the teachings of the work in my life, then when I talk, I'm not talking just from the outer mind. The words I may be using of the outer mind, but what I'm trying to say to you will come from the inner mind, because the experience is held in the inner mind. The words are held in the outer mind. The experiences are held in the inner mind. That is why many times when a person is just repeating words, we feel bored, right? Because uh, we feel he's just repeating something which he has read in a book or something of that sort. So there is life memory, then there's memory of the work, where we memorize the, what do you call, ideas of the work. We memorize the, what do you call, teachings of the work, just as we learned for an exam in school. It is the same mind which we use in school. But once we start implementing that, supposing I take one that don't express negative emotions, right? And here somebody insults me and I'm on the verge of getting angry, and I pause there and I observe the anger. I separate from the anger. I become free from the anger. Then I have implemented the work. Now that experience goes into a different part of the mind, the experience of the work, that is called work memory. The memory of my implementing my spiritual practices. And this has power. This has power. You know, we recite the Hanuman Chalisa, and he says, I clean the mirror of the mind with the dust from my guru's feet. Of course, the pollen of my guru's feet means from the knowledge I got, the knowledge of the work which I got from my guru, I cleaned the mirror of my mind. And then in the mirror of the mind, I saw Ram sitting over there, and then I invoked the remembrance. Sumiro Pavana Kumar. I then invoked the remembrance. But till I saw Ram there, did not see Ram there, I could not invoke the remembrance. Can you see what I'm trying to say? So the first thing which we do over here is that we clean the mirror of the mind, right? So we first learn from the guru, take from the guru charan, we take the dust of the guru and his knowledge, and we use that knowledge to implement it in life. And at one moment in life, we get a glimpse of the divine, and then we self remember the divine. Then there is that remembering of the divine. This whole thing comes in Smruti. Smruti. So there's life memory, which is a corrupted memory. There is memory of the work, which is just in the outer mind. And as we implement the memory, what do you call, the tenets of the work, the ideas of the sadhana, the ideas of yoga, as we implement it, there is an inner cleanliness which happens. The inner experiences gather inside. There's a work memory, a different memory. Now, how does this work memory work? In which way does it work? How does it bring light to a situation? How does it bring mindfulness to a situation? Let us take a normal, very normal example. That supposing I buy a new house, right? Or I build a new house, and you come to see the new house, and I take you, oh, this is my kitchen, this is my drawing room, this is my bedroom. I take you for a tour of my house, right? And that's okay. And you go back home. Next day, you again come to meet me. Definitely, you not come to see my new house, right? But I say, oh, you want to see my new house? I take you. This is my kitchen. This is my drawing room. This is my bedroom. And then you come on the third day. On the third day, you say, I've already seen it. You will bring mindfulness to the situation. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Now, I may have got angry 1,000 times in my life, right? But here, life memory does not, what do you call, help me in any way. Life memory is not going to help me in any way. But if I've memorized the work and say, at the moment of anger, I try to pause, then I create a new memory. I create a new memory where where is the experience of working with anger. And the next time I'm on the verge of getting angry, all that memory, you've seen that bedroom, you've seen that sitting room 1,000 times before. Why do you want to get angry? Just stop over here, pause over here. It will bring mindfulness to the situation. So the third thing which Patanjali is talking about is Smruti, mindfulness. Now here we have to just, because when we were doing vrittis and yoga chutta vritti nirodh, one of the vrittis was smruteya, memory. So there he was talking about smruti as something with which you are identified, and here he is talking about smruti as a, what do you call, samadhi, as a, as bringing mindfulness to a situation, right? So the same word can have different meanings at different levels, we'll see, right? Now, there's one thing over here. To bring mindfulness, to be free from memory, right? And that is a very mechanical action, a very mechanical pattern. In the sense that, can we come to a state, the same way in which from mechanical emotions we voluntarized our emotions, can we use memory only when it's needed, not to mechanically use memory, right? So if you tell me that you went to see the Taj Mahal, and automatically from my memory it comes, oh, 7 years ago I was in the Taj Mahal. Pause. Don't become a slave of memory. Bypass the memory. Don't say it. Pause over there. Don't nourish that pattern which keeps us a total slave to memory. Mr. Tavaria talks about memory bypass. Bypass the memory. Now, whether I say I went to the Taj Mahal 7 years ago, it makes no difference to this situation. There is no need for me to bring memory in this situation. Or you go to a restaurant and there is a paneer masala or whatever, and you say, oh yeah, 5 years ago I made a very nice paneer masala. Right now, it has no relevance to the situation, but we are just vomiting what is coming out of our memory. So many people, they come back to me and they say, okay, this is all this you're talking, how do we have a conversation with anyone, right? So, right, but our aim is different. Our aim is different. So please do this. Don't try to bring mindfulness to memory itself. That which allows us to bring mindfulness, take the mindfulness back upon it. Remember to look at memory. So, and we are slaves of memory. All 24 hours, all 24, not a single second goes by where we are free of memory. And if we can do this practice of using memory in rationing where it is absolutely necessary, right? Slowly, the grip of memory on our lives, it loosens. And when the grip of memory on our lives, it loosens, then for the first time we feel what is the meaning of freedom, what it means to be free, what is moksha, to be free. So Patanjali is saying that that's same samadhi, the same what do you call, sampragnat samadhi, samadhi with knowledge, can be achieved through Shraddha, right? Uh, through Virya, and it can be attained through Smruti. There are two more, samadhi and what do you call, pragna. We will take both of those next time. If there are any questions, I'll take now. He's saying purvak itaresha. Purvak itaresha means to go prior, you have to go through these to reach that. The others have to go through one of these five or to all these five and move to that state of what do you call, sampragna samadhi. I'm going to stop over here. I'll take a few questions, whatever, right? Are we meeting next Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
So we will take the next two next Tuesday. That is
So, sir,
samadhi
all Tuesdays are assigned to you. I think sir is not able to hear me.
How will we take the question?
Raja, can you do something
I
about
think you
it?
can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. I think there is a problem, Himati. I'll just call Rishabh.
Okay. You are here, Ketav. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I am here, but I'm in Delhi.
Yeah, I know that.
There's one question. What is the difference between soul and ego? Is that the question? Can that person say yes?
No. What?
I think he has disconnected.
No. Hello. Can you hear me?
Sir,
Can you hear me?
Hey, I'm trying to call. Just give me 2 minutes. I'm just trying to call him. There is a mic.
Any questions? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh.
Ji, sir.
Sorry, the speaker was.
Yes, sir. So, sir, all Tuesdays.
Without Ketav, we are in a little mess today.
Yes, I can understand. So, sir, all Tuesdays are assigned to you.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So okay. We'll continue.
Yes, sir. So the person is here who asked the question. Yes, sir. Please come in. I'll just pin you, sir.
No, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
In your talk, you had been bringing this out, that the realization that the ego is taken over of the soul. So we have to take it back to the soul, right? So now, who is this person in between from ego to soul? Because now there's a third person. It appeared to me that it's like a third person. There's a soul, there's an ego, and there's a third person who is actually contemplating between both. So if we just elaborate this particular aspect of it.
Okay. The soul is the entity which travels, right? And it is the soul which wants to grow. It wants to go back to a certain source from which it came. Like, so you can take the soul as the ray of light, and you can take the source from where it came as the sun. But the ray of light has now fallen in vibration, and so it has to increase its vibration. It increases its vibration by accumulating something called consciousness. When it reaches to that level of consciousness, which is equal to the sun, then the ray of light goes back into the sun, right? Now this soul, to accumulate consciousness, it has to take a physical body brain system. It cannot as a soul accumulate consciousness, right? Because the path to accumulate consciousness comes through three mechanisms of the mind: thinking, feeling, sensing, and moving, right? And it will only get those mechanisms if it takes a physical form. Now, on being born, the vibrations drop so much that the soul forgets why it took a physical form. And it starts getting identified with the comforts of the body. You get it? I need milk. I cry. My mother comes and runs and gives milk. Right? My nappy is bad. I cry. My mother comes and changes the nappy. Right? And within 3-4 years, there is this I who can cry and get nappies changed, and there is this I who can cry and get a pizza. Right? Something else is formed which is not the soul, and that is the false I or the ego. He spends his life crying for fulfilling all its desires. and it forgets the purpose for which the soul has come, and it, what you call, fulfills all its personal desires of comfort and whatever. And how does it do it? It needs something called attention. So it steals that attention belongs to the soul. So it steals that attention from the soul. For me to see you, right, it is attention flowing out of the eyes which allows me to see you. For me to hear you, it is attention flowing out of the ears which allows me to hear you. So the precious commodity attention which the soul needs for its personal growth, it is taken away by somebody else for its life growth, for its fulfilling its purposes in life. That is what I was trying to say.
So if I get it right, there is soul and the ego. Now, ego has hijacked the particular soul, and the conscience of the soul has gone down, or the vibration of the souls have gone down. So now soul is realizing and it's trying to build itself up. Am I right on that?
The only way it can do that is by trying to control
The ego, which is there.
attention.
Attention.
By
Yeah.
trying to control attention.
Attention out of the ego. Yeah.
Now, if it controls attention, it can observe the workings of the ego.
Yeah, that's understandable. Actually, you know, when you were talking in the third person. So it looked like there are two things and there's a third one in between. So that actually got me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
See, some things are behind the soul is the spirit. The spirit can see, the soul can control attention and hold presence, and the ego uses attention to fulfill all its desires. Anything else?
Anyone else?
Considering. The soul is everyone. Okay. No other questions? Are there on the?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So like you said, anger, the example of anger. So I am just a little confused here. So suppose if I am getting angry on someone and I pause and start thinking of if I spill out or say something or get into the arguments, then this thing will happen, this thing will happen, this thing will happen, and the relationship will spoil. So I pause. So I don't say anything. But that is also memory, isn't it? That is also memory.
You're pausing because of something which could happen tomorrow.
Yes.
You're not pausing to separate and observe.
Okay.
So what you call the seed of your pausing is something in time. It is a new form of identification. It is like tomorrow I'm going to get a payment for doing something.
Okay.
Reward and punishment, right? But here when we are observing, our aim in observing is to be free of anger. To be free of anger, right? So if it was here in such a case, if that person is important, I wouldn't get angry. But if it was somebody who's working for me, I may get angry. You get it.
Okay.
But freedom from the very pattern of anger.
Yes.
That is something totally different.
Different.
Yeah.
Vatsala ji, let me pin you. Yes, Vatsala ji, go ahead.
Sir, Rajan sir, may I ask something?
Yeah, please.
So it's very good to have you back. It's wonderful. First, let me.
My pleasure. I'm enjoying it.
Pranams to you. So this memory which you said, I get it. This memory is the cause of a lot of suffering. It cuts grooves in our mind. But can it not be used to have prashchit, remorse for the wrong we did, and use it as a tool to not to repeat?
See, right prashchit. It is something which we feel a feeling of remorse.
Yes.
Feeling of remorse.
It leads to a feeling of cleansing.
Yes. And it is cleansing of the pattern. Now, to be able to do that, we must first of all be able to go a little deeper into observation, not of one event, but two events which compose one event. Now, supposing I've treated you very badly, right? And that is one event, right? Now I go back home and I feel sorry that I've treated you very badly, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I have this feeling of guilt and I say I'm a very bad person and this. And if the pendulum just swings to the other side, then tomorrow I'm going to treat somebody else very badly.
You want to get out of it.
Can you see now? These are not two incidents. These are one incident. I treating you badly, and I, what do you call, feeling guilty about it. These are two are one things. They're two are one thing.
One, yes.
Can you get it?
Two
and I have to
sides of the
see them
same
as
thing.
one. Yes.
Yes.
See them as one.
Yes,
thing.
I get it.
The minute I see them as one thing, then it creates something within me of remorse. There's a fire inside. And in that fire, this pattern of doing this gets burnt out completely. That is prayashchit. That is real prayashchit.
Right.
But guilt is not prayashchit. Arey, what a bad person
I'm
am
not
I?
No, not guilt recrimination. I'm talking of prayashchit.
Right. Remorse.
Remorse.
So in that, we must see how we keep on shifting from one end of the pendulum to the other end of the pendulum. I hurt you today, I go home and say sorry, or I may phone you up and say, oh, I'm very sorry. Then I'll hurt somebody else tomorrow. Again, I'll phone up and say, I'm very sorry. And I just swing from this end to that end, right? And that really has no meaning. Really has no meaning.
So one last thing. Is it possible to get Sri Tavariyarji's Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the bare text?
Yeah.
Because
Can you write down the names of the people? Yeah. Can you send me a WhatsApp message?
I think your number is with Hemaji, sir.
Vatsalaji, you want the book from Tavariyarji? I will give you the number. I will send you the number of that person. I'll do that. Yeah.
Please put it on the group so that we can all benefit.
Yes, sir. I will put it on the group.
Yeah. Sir, can I request one more thing to Rajan sir?
Yeah.
Sir, different type of memories like what you've been bringing out. In one of the books, I also went through the 8 types of memory: the conscious, subconscious, superconscious, evolutionary memory, atomic memory, and others. So, can you take one session on just trying to bring out what really Manas, what is type of memories it has, because that is something which, like what you're trying to bring out, I think that'll get further clarified once we comprehensively look at all the memories and then do that. You know it better, sir.
Yeah, there are many kinds of memories, but I'll try to take some of them and what is relevant to a spiritual seeker. I'll try to.
If you can just tell us what are the total memories, and thereafter pick up something which is important, which you feel as per, which would be good for us to move up. But as a comprehensive whole, if you can just let us know what the things are, because a number of places I've read, every place it is a little confusing. Someone says something, someone puts emphasis on something else. Comprehensive whole is frankly not there, and that's how whenever we're talking in discourse like this, this confusion always emerges. That where is it? Because pardon me, the question which I asked you, that actually emerges out always and every time whenever there's a discourse of such nature, and that confuses the soul. If soul is so predominant and knows, and once you have become conscious, I am the soul, that realization comes to you. Now that realization of the soul itself, not the realization comes, the soul should evolve faster, but it takes a long to evolve. So there's something which is there. So I'll request, in case if you can, throw light on this particular aspect of it, memories, the type of memories, how actually those all function.
I'll try my best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right.
Sir, I will just ask, Shashi ma'am, you had unmuted yourself. Are you there or? I think she has left. Any more questions? No, sir. Yeah. Vatsalaji, you want to say something?
No, no, no.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall
Any
we?
questions from YouTube, sir?
No two questions on YouTube. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Shall we? Huh?
Yes, sir.
You'll say the slope, or should I say?
No, sir. You please.
Okay. Sahana bhavatu sahano bhunaktu sahaviryam karvavahi tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahi. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Thank you.